Good evening. My name is Rebecca Kiesling, and I am the Executive Director here at NAMI Northern Virginia. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We are recording this, and it will be up on our YouTube channel later this week. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us for I think, a great community wellness education event. I've known Wendy since I actually didn't get a chance to meet her in person until very recently. But she's been a volunteer with NAMI Northern Virginia and throughout NAMI for a number of years. And I was so excited when I found out that she was going to be doing this for us, because this was a presentation I had seen a little bit of at a conference that we did together recently. And it's such a great idea. It's something that we all need to be putting more into our own practices, but using this in different ways as a healing mechanism is something I hadn't thought of. Our community wellness education events are exactly what they sound like. We used to call them monthly meetings, but that didn't really get to the heart of what we're trying to do with them. We want to educate. We want to provide wellness education to the broader NAMI community. And with these events, both live and in person, we get to do that and explore different ways that we can all be healthy with our mental health. So that's what tonight is about. And I'm excited to introduce you to Wendy Bundy. Wendy has a really exciting background, including time spent in 911, higher education, libraries, peer supports, nonprofits, you name it. In addition to her full-time role as a Zero Suicide Coordinator for a local CSB, a Community Services Board, she teaches adjunct for Germanna Community College in their Criminal Justice Department and serves as a trainer for many other classes and programs, including many with NAMI, Mental Health First Aid, Virginia DBHDS's Peer Recovery Specialist Training. She's living everything that we're talking about. She has lived experience with mental health and trauma, some of which does come from her time as a 911 dispatcher. She is active with NAMI, as I said, as a volunteer. She's also a certified personal medicine coach, CPMC, I always mess that up, trainer, a registered yoga teacher, and trained in seeking safely digital peer support, crisis counseling assistant. Wendy, is there something that you have not trained in?
You know, it's hard to even tell at this point. Yeah.
I'm thinking all of the things that I've seen and taken, I don't know if there's anything you don't train on. If you notice through these and what these are, what this is she's sharing her own lived experience. And that's what we do here at NAMI. We share our lived experience so people know that they're not alone. But because of her dedication, Wendy is an award winner. She's recognized in 2023 by the Disability Law Center of Virginia as an Impact Award recipient. She also last year received the Lionel Aldridge Champions Award from NAMI National, which is an award given to an individual with a mental health condition who demonstrates courage, leadership, and service in their work to promote recovery and ensure that all people with mental health conditions live full lives in their communities. If that doesn't say it right there, then I don't know what does. I am so happy to introduce you to Wendy Bundy, and very excited that she's going to share this with us today. So Wendy, nobody wants to hear anything more from me. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Rebecca. And it's still, you know, when I hear someone give my introduction and list all of those things, it still amazes me and almost makes me tear up at points, because I fought so hard and had a lot of support for many, many years to get to the place that I'm at now. And so I'm finally getting to live the life that I really fought to have. So it's truly a blessing when I get asked to come and do things like this. And I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. So I do have a PowerPoint. Let me get that pulled up so you all can follow along. And if someone can just give me a thumbs up if they can see my screen, that would be awesome.
We got it.
You got it. Okay, perfect. Then I'm making sure I can still see you all on my second screen. You would think that after doing this for many years, since we went virtual, that I would have this down a little bit better, but it always takes a minute to get everything set up just the way I like it. All right, so there we go. So tonight's title that I chose is Using Yoga as a Tool for PTSD Recovery. So I do have a diagnosis of complex PTSD from my time spent in 911 and also other things that happened to me, you know, just life that happened from my teenage years on. And that's actually why I have my hair. It's green for Mental Health Awareness Month, and then it fades into the teal for PTSD awareness. I've been doing at least the teal part every year now for the past like 3 years. And I find that it's just a good way to continue having that conversation and keep building, you know, around that in the community, breaking down the stigma. Because when someone says, hey, I like your hair, I can be like, oh, well, there's a story behind it. I do this for PTSD awareness. So it's just a little subtle way that I like to tie that in. And so what we're going to do tonight is it's kind of half workshop, half education. I thought that would be a good mix, and it's a little easier to do yoga in certain formats online. So we're going to do like a mindful minute just to kind of get us all grounded in the present and here together. I'll talk a little bit about my story and how I found yoga and how I use yoga now as a tool. I'll also share some breathing techniques and some other techniques and poses related to yoga, like tapping and lion's breath and some exercises, some things that I use in my day-to-day to help me get through. And then we'll end with some resources and apps and hopefully some time for Q&A if anyone has any questions, because I'm definitely an open book and I love having those discussions and answering questions. So let's jump in with a mindful minute. I love doing guided imagery for this. So with yoga, it's not all about the poses. Poses are just one facet of yoga. It's a lot of breath work and mindfulness in yoga as well. And I'm at a point in my personal practice with it where I do a lot of this guided imagery, listen to a lot of meditations and do body scans and things like that. So this is just a snapshot of what that can look like. So for this exercise, I can't really see any of you all. Everyone went off camera on me, but I want to just invite you to get yourself in a comfortable position, you know, really relaxed. Your feet flat on the floor if that's comfortable, or I like to sit kind of cross-legged in my chair. So just get comfortable, kind of sink in to wherever you're at. And if it's more comfortable for you to close your eyes or lower your gaze away from the screen, do whichever of those is the most comfortable for you right now. And I'm just going to read a script and lead you through this exercise. So I want you to bring to mind a place that you've either been or would like to go that is very peaceful and calming to you. Often people pick a place in nature for this. Somewhere that you would like to go or that you've been that feels settling and calming. When you have this place clear in your mind's eye, start firing up your 5 senses. So take a look around this place and see what the landscape is like. Take in all the colors and the textures. Notice if the sun is out, or maybe it's shady. Become fully aware of what you see as you look around this place. Next, bring awareness to the sounds that you're hearing. Are the sounds close up, or are they more at a distance? Take in any scents and smells that are in this calming place. Now take a moment and imagine what this place would feel like on your skin. Are you in the sunlight or shade? Does it feel warm? Humid maybe? Or is it cooler and brisk? Is the wind blowing? Can you feel the wind moving across your skin? Just take a moment here to imagine what it would feel like to be in this place. And now, as we end this practice, just take another moment to absorb anything that feels particularly calming and soothing from this place. And I invite you to close this practice with 3 soothing inhales and exhales. All right. Now, if you lowered your gaze or closed your eyes, feel free to bring your gaze back up to the screen and join us back in this moment. Anyone want to chime in, come off mute, or put anything in the chat of how you feel after doing that exercise? And if not, that's okay. It's a very personal exercise. Most people tell me that they really just find it helpful in forgetting everything else that's been going on for the day. Yeah, feeling more relaxed. Someone just popped in the chat, and just kind of bringing them present into the moment where they're at. So I always like to start any kind of presentations I'm doing with that type of exercise. So wonderful. And when I do this exercise for myself, I pick a very interesting place. I really love the city of New Orleans. I went there a couple of years ago for the first time, and I just love the energy walking around some of the streets there. And so I always imagine that I'm back in that chaos, walking around those streets and listening to that beautiful music and all of the sounds and the smells that are coming out of the restaurants, because there's a lot of good food there too. So that's one of my favorite places to visualize when I'm doing this exercise. So it doesn't always have to be nature. Just a lot of people tend to pick the nature places. All right, so I said I was going to share with you a little bit about my story and how I found yoga. So like Rebecca was talking about in my introduction, I spent some time, almost 7 years, working as a 911 dispatcher. And before that, I had some mental health issues that stemmed from having to grow up really quick as a teenager. My dad was diagnosed with lupus and had to stop working when I was 14. And so the impact that had on our family caused me a lot of stress, a lot of financial strain as well. And I started having stomach issues very early on, not connecting that it was related to my mental health, which only got progressively worse while I was working in 911. And so I'm officially diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, in 2012. And I'm not a huge fan of traditional medicine. I absolutely hate taking any kind of pills. I'm also very sensitive to a lot of medicine. So traditional medicine was not super helpful. And I started seeking out alternatives. I did have someone recommend yoga or mindfulness very early on to help with the stomach issues. And so I started doing some research on it. I really wasn't a fan, and it kind of stopped there. just couldn't really get it to stick at that point in my life. Fast forward a couple years later, in about 2018-ish, I go to a psychiatrist and get my official mental health diagnosis. And again, I'm confronted with, different types of therapies and modalities to try to combat this, because I don't want to use traditional medicine. And so mindfulness comes up. And I'm given a workbook and some audio files and told to kind of start exploring more of the mindfulness route. I also went back at that same time and was still dabbling with yoga. It wasn't really a consistent practice for me, but I was just trying to see between body scans, mindful eating. There was an audio file for mindful walking. All of these things, like which ones made an impact, felt good, were things that I wanted to keep doing. And it really took me close to about 2 years of just experimenting with the different things, and trying a yoga class here, a yoga class there, trying to do some of them from home because I didn't really feel like the classes were the best environment for me. It was hard to keep up since I really had not done a lot of this practice. So I tried on and off, for a couple of years. And I would say about 2 years in is when it really clicked for me. And I can't really pinpoint anything in particular that clicked, but just the practice of doing some of the deep breathing and doing some of the moves, like all of a sudden it just clicked. And ever since then, I've been slowly deepening my own practice. Up until last year, I was just kind of doing this on my own. I still was not a fan of community classes, so I would watch, YouTube videos. I would do yoga on my own before going to bed at night, at home. And I decided that I wanted to deepen my practice even more. So the opportunity to take a registered yoga teacher training came up, and I took that in about 3 months' time. And became certified in October of last year. So I'm still a work in progress. There are still things with yoga that are that I'm not a huge fan of, and there are pieces of yoga that I like better than others. So you'll see some of that in the poses and things that I share as we move through the presentation. That there are some I gravitate to more than others. And one of those things being just trying to sit still and do some basic breathing techniques. You'll hear a lot of different breathing techniques thrown out there, like box breathing and 4-7-8 breathing and belly breathing, balloon breathing. I mean, they have all sorts of names for this. But just really trying to sit still and do that slow, deep, what they call diaphragmatic breathing is one of my favorite things, because coming from the field that I was in for so many years, I was used to just go, go, go all the time, and I need to be busy. But I'm slowly learning that taking some time, taking some good pauses throughout the day, slowing down my breathing and doing this diaphragmatic breathing just a couple of times a day, for, a couple minutes when I wake up in the morning, couple minutes like on my breaks, and then again before I go to bed at night. It actually is helping me to slow down my entire day and enjoy more of the day, being able to be more present in my time that I'm at work and at home, which is super important for me. So yeah, deep breathing where you feel the abdomen expanding all the way as you fill up your lungs. And then when you breathe out, it's slowly and completely. And when you do this and you're really intentional about it, you can also notice where you might be holding some tension. So a lot of people hold tension around like their shoulders and their neck, maybe even in their chest. I hold a lot of tension in my upper back. I've had some people tell me they feel it more in their lower back. So it's very individualized, but it is interesting as you start doing it and you become more self-aware where you'll notice those things. And so then it turns into like deep breathing exercise and a little mini body scan all in one. And if you've never tried body scans before, they are amazing. One of my most favorite things to do is about a 30-minute body scan. And I'm not sure if I put the link to it in this presentation or not, but I'm happy to share one of my favorites. It's on YouTube for that.
Yeah, Wendy, if you want to share some of anything that you mentioned during this, I can always send it out in the post event email.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because there might be some links to videos and things too that I referenced that others might be interested in checking out.
Yes.
Perfect. I will make sure you have all of that.
Great. Thank you.
And so just continuing to talk more about some of these breathing techniques. I mentioned there's so many of them. And for the diaphragmatic breathing, sometimes it's explained as balloon breathing too. When I first started doing it, it was much easier for me to put my hand actually on my stomach at the top of my belly and feel it as it's expanding, feel it move out, and then feeling it move in, just so I had more awareness of it. And this is also a great way to explain it to smaller children. You'll see Little Twisters Yoga. They have a lot of infographics on it that I think are even fun for adults because I like to have a lot of fun with my yoga. But yeah, using that technique of putting your hand there so you can really be in tune with it. And I think that helps me be more present with the practice as well. One of my absolute favorite breathing techniques is the 4-7-8. So I'm just curious if anyone has ever heard of 4-7-8 before, if you want to type in the chat real quick and let me know. If you haven't, it's you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold that inhale for 7, and then you're exhaling for 8. So you're exhaling double the amount of time that you're inhaling. So if you want to take a moment and practice either one of these real quick, I'll go through the count for a 4-7-8, just to kind of help you see what the rhythm looks like. See, Karen says no, she hasn't heard of it. Okay. Well, perfect. So I'm gonna walk you through the count so you just have an idea of what it looks like, and feel free to try it if you feel comfortable doing so. I will say with any of these breathing techniques, if at any time they make you feel uncomfortable or like you're going to pass out or something, please stop. You know your body and your limitations, and sometimes they can, as you're getting used to them, can make you feel very different. So just be aware of that. All right, so for 4-7-8 breathing, inhale for the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that would be one sequence of it. And then you could do that a couple of times if you're really feeling like you just need to slow down and take that breather. I usually do it about 3 times in a row now that I've gotten my body used to it. But starting out, maybe you just do it for that one, like I just counted through. I know when I did this at the workshop, gosh, it's been a couple of months already, or it seems like it, back in May. A lot of folks really did like the 4-7-8. It's different than box breathing, where it's typically all on a 4 count. So with box breathing, it's inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And you continue that pattern. And some people draw out as they're doing it, they draw out a box in front of them, just how it got the name box breathing. So those are some new breathing techniques maybe that you haven't heard of that you can try out. All right, another really cool thing that I've come across, and I came on this within the last about 1.5 years. So I haven't been doing tapping quite as long as I've been experimenting with the mindfulness and the yoga, but it's very well connected to both of those things, all about kind of bringing more awareness to your body and where you're feeling things in your body. So with tapping, I started using it to control many panic attacks that I was having, as if I didn't have enough things going on. On top of the PTSD, I started having these intense panic attacks early in the morning before going to work, and discovered that tapping was a good way to decrease that. And I was able to then go on with my day. And then I started doing it pretty much every night before bed for a while. And now I've kind of phased it out where I just do it every once in a while instead of every night, which is also what I do with the yoga. I use it more when I'm during, periods of life where things are more stressful for me, like I'm doing more travel, more presentations, more things I have to prepare for. I lean into the yoga and mindfulness more. And then when things are a little bit calmer, I tend to slack a little bit and not do things as often. And then it continues to ebb and flow. So with tapping, this is Jessica Ortner in this video that I'm going to share. She is actually one of the founders of the Tapping Solutions app, which is the app that I use to walk me through this myself. And I just think she does a wonderful job of explaining it much better than I can do. So I'm going to invite you to watch her go through this, and she'll show you the points and explain kind of the background with what tapping is and when to use it. And you'll have to let me know if you don't hear sound. I can't remember if I checked that
what
box.
side of the body you tap on.
Can you hear sound?
Welcome to the
You can
Tapping
hear
Solutions.
sound.
You can hear sound. Okay, perfect.
I am Jessica Ortner, author of the New York Times bestseller, The Tapping Solutions for Weight Loss and Body Confidence. And in this short video, I am going to introduce you to the tapping points. Just by learning these 9 points, you can start your journey to relieve stress. Many of these points you may already intuitively use. A lot of times when we're feeling anxious or stressed, we go like this. We put our hand on our chest. Now we're using these points in a very conscious manner. So the very first point that you need to learn is the side of the hand. And it doesn't matter what side of the body you tap on. This point is called the karate chop point. You got it. And tap along with me so you can get comfortable with these points. The next point is the eyebrow point. And this is where the hair begins on your eyebrow, right on that bone. There you go. You got it. Now you're going to follow that bone until you find yourself on the side of your eye. So it's not your temple, it's right on that bone. The next point is underneath the eye. So once again, you follow that bone until you find yourself right underneath the eye. And as you're tapping, you might notice that some points are more sensitive than others. The next point is underneath the nose. So right between your upper lip and your nose. Then we have the under the lip point, or some people call it the chin point. It's right underneath your lip on that crease between your chin and your lip. The next one is the collarbone point. So you can use your whole hand to tap on your chest, or you can feel that U-shaped bone, and if you go down an inch and over an inch on either side, you're going to hit that point. Perfect. The next point is underneath the arm, and it's about a hand width from your armpit. For women, this is about where your bra strap lies. And then the last point, and yes, I know it looks silly, but a great point to hit a lot of these meridians is right on the top of the head. There you go. So those are the 9 points. Now, when you want to start to tap, the first thing to do is to notice what is really coming up. What's your most pressing issue? Are you nervous about a deadline at work? Are you anxious about a phone call or some news that you've heard? Whatever it is, get clear on what's creating the anxiety in your body. Because when we are feeling stress, we're not just experiencing stress in our head, we feel it with our whole body. Which is why it's so powerful to use a stress relief technique that incorporates the body. So you start by tapping on the side of the hand, and you start with the setup statement. The setup statement is pretty easy, and it sets you up for the process. You state your challenge, and you end it with a phrase of acceptance, or simply letting yourself know that you're okay. So it sounds something like this. Even though I'm really anxious about this meeting, I accept how I feel. Or even though I'm really stressed about this upcoming event, I accept how I feel and I give myself permission to relax. There's a lot of different ways to do the setup statement, but what's key is to let yourself know that you honor how you feel. Because too often when we're trying to move past an emotion, we're fighting against it. When we allow ourselves to accept where we are and how we feel, we open ourselves up to releasing it. Then you tap on the rest of the points by simply sharing how you feel. So you can pretend that you're calling a friend and you're just complaining, you're just telling them how you feel. This is the tape that you're probably already running in your head. So as a short example, going with this theme of being nervous about a meeting, it would start with tapping on the side of the hand and saying, even though I'm so nervous about this upcoming meeting, I accept how I feel and I give myself permission to relax. You would do that 3 times, and now you tap on the rest of the points while giving a voice to how you feel. And this sends a calming signal to your brain, letting your brain know that even though you're nervous about this meeting, that you are safe, that it's safe to relax. And when you can relax, you can be more resourceful and creative, do a great job at your meeting. So then you would go to the eyebrow point and say something like this: stress around this meeting. Side of the eye, I'm nervous I won't do well. Under the eye, I care so much about this meeting and it's causing me anxiety. Under the nose, the stress around this meeting. Chin, all of these expectations. Collarbone, this tension I feel in my body. Underneath the arm, all the stress around this meeting. Top of the head, all this stress around this meeting. If you're not sure what to say, like I mentioned before, you can pretend you're talking to a friend, or you can just say the same thing, honoring how you feel, the stress around this meeting, the stress around this meeting. And once we bring down the intensity, we can focus on some positive phrases, because when we pull out the weeds, we're able to now seed. We can actually say positive things to ourselves and we believe them. So once you feel better, and that's the key, when you feel better, you can move to something more positive. So it would sound something like this. I'm prepared. Side of the eye, I'm calm and confident. Under the eye, I'm ready to share my ideas. Under the nose, I feel strong and confident. Chin, this is my time. Collarbone, I am ready for this meeting. Under the arm, I feel calm and confident. Top of the head, now is my time. So you can incorporate how you're feeling, letting go of the anxiety, and when you're able to move that, then you bring in the more positive, and then it actually feels real. So next time you tap, notice, as soon as you start feeling better, try to put in some positive statements. You'll get to the point where you can think about that meeting and your body feels relaxed. And when you feel relaxed, then it's easier to bring in more empowering thoughts. Now, when you tell yourself that you can feel confident and prepared, you can believe yourself because you let go of the anxiety that was coming up with those thoughts. So that's a very, very quick introduction on where the tapping points are and how to tap. But here at thetappingsolution.com, we have a lot more resources so you can really learn how to get the best results. Well, it's been an honor to introduce tapping to you. I hope this is just the beginning. And until we meet again, take care and keep tapping.
All right. I love how she covers it so thoroughly in just this short couple of minutes. And like I was talking about, I got into a routine of doing this at night, right before going to bed. So it was part of my bedtime routine. We talk a lot in mental health recovery about, those routines and how they're important. And so this was super important for me to incorporate with that. And then also to make sure I was focusing on my breathing. So doing some sort of diaphragmatic breathing or other breathing techniques before or after this. And also just doing a couple really gentle yoga moves. So like I mentioned, I don't do traditional yoga a lot of times. I just have my favorite moves that honestly, I do them most of the time in bed right before I'm getting ready to fall asleep. or occasionally I'll do some. I have 4 rescue dogs. So I'll do some of the poses in my living room with the dogs running all around me, which is a whole nother layer of yoga if you've never experienced yoga with animals. So just finding ways to incorporate some of this movement, and some of the favorite poses that I have might not be ones that you particularly like, but maybe finding 1 or 2 to try out, and just seeing how you can incorporate it into your day and into things that you're already doing. It doesn't have to be a full 30-minute or an hour-long yoga class. The important thing with yoga is just to remember to take those pauses and to just breathe and stretch and move our bodies throughout the day. So some of my favorite poses, and it's really hard to demonstrate a lot of these virtually, so I thought I would just kind of walk you through them and show you pictures of what they look like. One of them is chair. So chair is like almost like you're sitting in a chair without the chair being there. And it really helps with stretching out your ankles, your shins, your shoulders. So if you've been actually sitting for a while, doing this pose without the chair there is going to help increase that heart rate and to build body heat too. And so another thing I deal with in addition to PTSD is Hashimoto's. And for those of you who might not be familiar with Hashimoto's, it's a thyroid disorder that causes a lot of people to be cold all the time. And that's exactly what it does to me. So chair really helps me build that body heat and stay warm, which is good. One of my absolute favorites is tree pose, because tree pose is a balancing pose. And I love being a show off with my balancing. It's one of my greatest strengths. So I will do tree pose like for an entire length of a song and just be really in the moment, focus on something in front of me and just be there doing this pose. I really like to do this one outside in the mornings during the summer if I can. So in that good morning sun, getting some vitamin D and being out there in the yard until one of the dogs, of course, runs into me and tries to knock me over. But it's a really good pose to utilize in that way. Another one that focuses on balance is eagle. And so eagle gets a little kind of bendy and really forces some flexibility, but it can be really fun. And a yoga teacher that introduced me to eagle once said, not just getting in the pose, but getting out of the pose is when you really feel the release. And she was totally right. So, you put all this effort into getting into eagle, and then you hold it and focus on the balance and being present in that moment until you can't hold it any longer. And then when you break free out of the pose, I like to take my arms out and kind of pretend like I am an eagle getting ready to fly. And it just has this freeing feel to it. So eagle is a really awesome pose. And it stretches out the shoulders and upper back, which if you remember me saying earlier, that's where I hold a lot of my tension. So it's really good for me to get that tension out. Oh, I see somebody raise their hand. Karen.
I was just wondering if you can, I know it's been a while since I've done yoga, and I was wondering if you can like walk us through how to get into eagle.
How to get into eagle. So let me think of how is the best way to explain this. So starting with the arms is probably easier. So hooking one elbow under the other, bringing the hands together in front of your face. So when you're in this pose, the hands are going to block the front view. And then for the bottom, once you've got the top situated, and I see my background is not going to like me doing this, but standing up, crossing one leg. So I'll take the right leg across the left, coming up a little bit to be able to tuck my foot in behind my left leg. And in order for me to do that, I have to kind of lean into it and bend my left leg a little bit to allow for that. So I don't know if that was helpful.
No, it was. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of those, it's kind of very difficult to explain, especially virtually when I wasn't sure how much you could see. And yeah, full disclosure on my yoga teacher certification, I'm still very new to learning how to properly cue poses. I still tell people I'm a better student of yoga and doing it than I am explaining it sometimes. So questions like yours are helpful in making me think about, okay, how do I explain this? So I really do appreciate that. Any other questions about Eagle before we move on? No? Okay. Got just a couple more that I really like and enjoy. Camel. Camel is one that I've been doing for several years. It was one of the first ones that I stumbled across way back when I had the irritable bowel syndrome diagnosis, because it was supposed to be good for the stomach. It's not a benefit listed here, but somewhere along the way I read that it was beneficial for stomach issues. And so I started doing this one and really like it as well. And it gets that good stretch on my back and stuff where I'm always hunched over at the computer. So it's good to be able to do camel, which kind of reverses that and forces me to be in the opposite direction. Plow is one that I have a really funny connection to. So when I was a very small child, I remember like just being in the yard and being outside playing and getting into a position similar to this. So this was something that I did as a kid, not realizing that it was a yoga pose. And there's a couple other poses that I've stumbled across that are similar to that, but this one is one of my favorites. For some reason, I just really like how this one, it says it relaxes the mind and relieves stress. And I really do feel like that's what it does for me. And then of course there's Happy Baby. Happy Baby is a really good one and an easy one to get into when I'm in the bed, which is where I tend to do most of my yoga. So yeah, just enjoying this one and having the dogs come up, and they love this one as well because they can get to me and they can try to lick me in the face and everything. So this one ends up being Happy Baby with the dogs attacking me as well. And then I believe this is the last one that I've included here is Child's Pose. Child's Pose is the one that whenever you're taking an actual class of yoga, they usually say, you know, if you're not comfortable doing any of the other poses, you can always revert to Child's Pose. And so it was one of the first ones I learned when I went into an actual yoga class. And I really do like how relaxing it is. How much, you know, it relieves that tension in the upper shoulders and back and really gets a good stretch on the rest of the body. It's also a really good one to transition into other positions like downward dog and some of those. So yeah, I find this one to be one that I'll go into sometimes and just lay there for like 10 minutes in this pose. Oh, it's not the last one I included. I included fish as well. So fish is one that I don't do as often because I actually find it better to do with using yoga blocks. And I don't use yoga blocks as often as I should, but I'm trying to get better about that. But I had someone show me how to do this pose using yoga blocks where you put one in between your shoulder blades to help really get that arch for the position, and then also putting another one underneath the lower back. So it helps with holding that shape. And when you're actually in the proper shape of it with using the yoga blocks, if you're not able to do this without them, it really is a soothing position. It helps with that toning the core You feel it pulling at the core and helping to strengthen the lower and middle back, like they mentioned here. So I really do enjoy this pose. It's just I don't do this one as often unless I'm actually at a yoga studio and have blocks and someone to help me with getting into it the proper way. And then legs up the wall. This is one I don't think of as a yoga pose because I've seen a lot of other people do this. I actually worked in a library with a lady who this was her favorite thing. She got terrible migraines, and this was her thing to go to. Like if she had a migraine come on, she would go in our back office and do this. And I was skeptical about it at first, but after trying it, it really is helpful. And it's also helpful for the circulation. And where I mentioned I'm typically cold all the time, doing this pose, even for just a couple of minutes, helps with that blood flow and helps me to stay a little bit warmer than what I usually would. It's also really good if you have any other conditions or things going on where you have swelling in your ankles and feet. My mom has a condition that causes that, and so I encourage her to do this one just to help with that a little bit. So yeah, yoga has lots of benefits. All the poses have their own unique benefits. And so that's what I find fascinating about it is seeing, which ones are really good for certain things and picking and choosing and not doing it in, like I said, that traditional classroom kind of style or structure. I just like certain poses for the way they make me feel and for the benefits that they have. And it's okay to do yoga that way. You can pick one or two poses and you can hold them for as long as you want. That's the great thing about it. And you have that total control over it. So I encourage you, if you haven't done a lot of yoga, or maybe you've been a little skeptical about it, just start small. Start with just one pose and see how it goes. All right, next up, I have one of my favorite breathing techniques, lion's breath. Lion's breath is something that's done for energy. And so with it being almost 8 o'clock at night, I am not going to do this along with the lady in this video. Usually I would, but if I do that, I'm going to be up most of the night. So that's a caution about this one, is it is energy invoking. But it's one of my favorites. And so I did want you all to see what it looks like. And it's actually very silly to do. And I love things that are silly and kind of bring that added element of fun to different breathing techniques in yoga. So pay attention to what she does and kind of remember it. And maybe like in the morning, if you want to really see what this is like, you can try it out on your own then.
Have you ever felt low in your energy, or you're about to go and give a presentation or do something, but you just feel a lack of confidence, you're uncertain, and you just feel like you need a boost of confidence, a boost of energy, just a boost? Or maybe there's something just on your mind you need to get rid of. Well, this breathing technique is great for that. For some, it may feel like it's a little bit out there. So maybe you want to find a place where you can sit with yourself quietly, doors are closed, or sometimes you might feel the need to do this one right out there in public, depending on the effect you want to do. But this is lion's breath. So lion's breath, you can't be shy for this breath. So if you're shy, just close your eyes and it'll all get better. So with lion's breath, what you do is you stick the tongue way out. You look up with the eyes. So you open the eyes wide, look up, stick the tongue out, take a breath in through the nose, and then you out the throat. So if you really hard, you'll start coughing, and that's all right. Just cough and come back to it. But otherwise, you just let yourself make that sound. The hardest part of this breath is letting yourself make that sound. So don't be shy. Let's give it a try. Sitting comfortably or standing, let's take the eyes, open them wide, and look up. Stick your tongue right out. Take a deep breath in through the nose and make that sound. Let's do it again. Big breath in. No, I just breathed in through my mouth, and that's okay too. Just take the breath in. What's important is that on the way out. Sometimes we'll teach you with the arms open, fingers spread wide. You open out. Okay, so here we go. Give it a try. Deep breath in. Let's do it again. One more time. Close the eyes, bring the tongue back in, take a big breath in through the nose. Just release the breath. Your eyes are closed. You can speak to yourself a little bit, give yourself a boost. I've got energy. I am confident. I can do this. Whatever languaging works for you. And then open the eyes and go get them.
Yeah, so I really love doing that one super early in the morning. My dogs love it too. They've gotten used to me doing it, and they come up and will like get right in my face as I'm doing that. And it's our fun little game, the way that we start our day. I also had someone tell me they love to do that in traffic. So for those of you who maybe have the commutes in Northern Virginia, the next time you're stuck in traffic, maybe do that and to get some of your frustration out and see then what fellow drivers around you think of it when you're doing that. I'm not brave enough to do it in traffic, but I do it most mornings at home. All right, for the sake of time, I don't think I'm going to play this entire video, but this is the one I'll share. I'll be happy to share the link and you can watch it later. But something else I learned with yoga is there's a whole nother segment of yoga called like laughter yoga. And this lady calls it a laughter exercise that she's doing. It can be really silly. It can be structured around different things. Like she talks about taking the brain out and flossing the brain and doing all these things, and she's laughing the entire time in the video. There's another version of it where they just have you go through a sequence of forced laughter. So I tend to do that one. Ironically, me and my husband, it's one of our jokes around the house is we'll walk around doing this. Ha ha, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha, ho ho, hee hee. And it's something that we watched together as a educational video on this laughter yoga. And we've both now just kind of taken to it, and it's our running joke with each other. But it really does have some science behind it, because if you remember when we were younger, we would laugh more often than we do as adults. And so kind of tapping back into that and thinking about the chemicals in your body, what they call the happy chemicals, that are released when you laugh. That's the important thing behind it, is getting those chemicals moving. And so laughter is a way to do that. Even if it's forced laughter, it can still be just as effective. And if you're like us, you'll do it a couple of times, and then you'll actually find yourself laughing at the situation and laughing at how you're trying to laugh. So it can be really fun. I know I'm encouraging you to be kind of silly and let your guard down. But I've had to learn the hard way that I need to do more of that in my life because I got really serious, and I've worked in some really serious fields. And so it was difficult for me to find those ways to incorporate fun and joy back into my life. But so necessary in the world that we live in, just to take calm moments, enjoy the present, enjoy the journeys that we're on, and have fun with it. So that's what I'm trying to do every day, is more of those things. And then also remembering to rest. So at the end of any yoga practice, there's Shavasana, which is a time to rest. And it's usually like 5 to 10 minutes of an actual class if you go to one. But you can do this without going to a class. You can find lots of YouTube videos that are the deep, relaxing music for yoga and meditation. And just play them for whatever time you have. Maybe you have a minute to do this. Maybe you have 3. Maybe you have 10 minutes to do it. Whatever works for you in the time that you have, just trying to do a little bit of that each day. And maybe it's a video like this where it's just the music, or maybe it's one of the body scans like I talked about, where it's walking you through stuff. And body scans are not necessarily meant to make you fall asleep. Neither is this per se, but it might have that effect on you. And if it does, maybe it's because your body's just really tired and you need sleep. So let your body have what it needs. And in turn, you're going to find that you're so much more productive and present at the other moments in life. So I know I talked about a lot. The hour went by really, really quick. Here's some resources and apps. These are a few of the things that I mentioned. The Mindful Way workbook is that workbook that I was first handed by my psychiatrist. Struggle Well is a book that talks about post-traumatic growth. So kind of appropriate for this month when we're talking about PTSD awareness. Post-traumatic growth is coming out of those types of situations and being better because of what we've been through and learning how to really thrive in that aftermath. So really, really enjoy that book and the process that they have for that. The Tapping Solutions app, so you can see the icon of what that looks like. The Calm app also has a lot of good breathing. Like they've even got just the breathing bubble where you can watch it to inhale and exhale. So that can really help you with keeping count. And then the body scan meditation that I use is by John Kabat-Zinn. And it's about 30 minutes and it's on YouTube. I'll make sure they have the link to send out with everything. And that is it. We've got a couple minutes left. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to entertain those.
Taking myself off mute right now. If there are any questions, you can put yourself into, put it into the chat, or you can just raise your hand and we'll see you. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for asking the question that you did during the presentation. I love when these things are interactive.
Well, we'll send out a follow-up with Wendy's contact information. In the chat, you're going to see a link for our survey. We are very, very fortunate to be able to offer all of our NAMI programs, our support groups, our trainings, our presentations at no cost. One of the things that our funders ask is for survey information. So in order to keep providing things at no cost, we do ask that if you could just spend just a few minutes, click that link and provide survey feedback. We would greatly appreciate it. We did tape this. We will send follow-up information with Wendy's contact information. If you do have questions, please follow up. And we are going to be putting this recording on our YouTube channel. You can search for us. It's NAMI Northern Virginia. Super hard. But we'll put that link out in the follow-up email as well. If you guys have suggestions for future things that you would like to see as community wellness education events, please let us know. You can email us at info@nami-nova.org. And we'd love suggestions about things that would be helpful for you to learn more about. We have some exciting things coming up this summer that I'm very excited about. An